guys doing? And welcome back to a new episode of Midnight Creeps. I know I'm a little bit too late today, but you know what they say, better late than never. I'm just 13 minutes over time. It's going to be all well and all fair. So, as you guys know, here on Storytime, we're counting down Halloween by sharing creepy stories each Friday night at midnight. So if you don't want to miss it, make sure to tune in. Be sure to subscribe. Set up a notification on my channel. That way, whenever I launch a new post, you guys will be the first to get it. And boy, oh boy, do I have a lot of cool adventures planned to be sharing on my Storytime channels. If you haven't yet, or if you aren't familiar with my Storytime blog, be sure to check that out. Visit it by www.ShachemLieuw.blogspot.com. That's what you should enter into the URL to arrive at my website. I want to shout out the book that I just launched. It's called Trouble in Halloween Town. So if you guys are looking for more scary or spooky stories, be sure to check that out on my blog as well. Trouble in Halloween Town is certainly an interesting story. It's about a young witch. But for more of that, I'm sure you guys are gonna check out my channels. Okay, so let's get started with this episode of Midnight Creeps. I hope you guys have your popcorn and everything already. About the story of Anna and Pumpkin Patch. If you haven't checked the previous episodes yet, do that. We're here at week number 4 of Midnight Creeps, and today we're going to dive first a bit from the story of Anna. We'll continue Anna, her story next week. For today, I wanted to tell you guys a different creepy and spooky story. This is about a young girl named Clara. Clara was like just barely 16, 17 years old, and she lived in a forest with her parents. There weren't a lot of people around her that kept track of what they were doing, or they didn't have a lot of neighbors at that moment, so they lived secluded for most part. One day, Clara came home from school, and she was so excited to see her parents, but when she walked into the house, it was empty. There was no one there. She was shocked to see it. She kept asking herself, where's everyone? She walked inside to go look for her parents. She asked them, hey. She kept yelling around in the house, hey, is anyone home? But no one answered her back. Clara decided to further investigate. When she went into her backyard, she found giant chicken footprints, and she was confused. Like, was a dinosaur walking by or something like that? Clara came closer to the chicken footprints to investigate it. But she couldn't see the creature that created these kind of footprints. She wondered if this creature was responsible for the disappearing of her parents. She decided to go out on a quest to find them and follow the chicken prints. Because she had a good feeling that if she followed it, she would arrive at a place where her family was kept hidden. Or so she thought, because she really believed that the giant chicken was responsible for it. She'd never seen chicken footprints like this in her backyard. Anyway, Clara grabs a couple of her things, she fills it in her bag, she grabs some snacks and food from the road. She follows the chicken footprints. When she follows the chicken footprints, she follows them into the dark forest. When she enters the dark forest, she notices that the chicken footprints get smaller and smaller and smaller at each step that she takes. Until she finally arrives at a spot where the chicken footprints have reached the size of an Afro chicken. But instead of finding a chicken sitting there, she found an old man that was meditating. He had his eyes closed and he was sitting in the meditation stance. Clara asked him, "Who are you? Have you seen my family? I'm kind of lost and confused. Have you seen a giant chicken walk by here?" She asked him so many questions, but he didn't answer her. He kept sitting in his meditative state, ignoring her. The girl tried to get her attention. I'm sorry, excuse me, can happen, yes. The girl tried to get his attention, so she took a stick, a twig that she found on the floor, and she threw it on the old man's head. And slowly he began opening his eyes, and he was like, "Who are you? Why have you awakened me from my ancient sleep?" And she began explaining her story to him, and she was like, "Hey, I'm Clara. I'm looking for my parents. They've been missing, and I saw footprints of a giant chicken in our backyard. So I followed them, and they led me straight to you." And he was like, "You've awoken me out of 100 years slumber for nothing?" He was unbothered at Clara, her request for help, or at her situation, her predicament. It was as if he didn't care at all. She felt a cold shudder pass through her body as the man gave her a heartless and cold answer. "Go away, child, and don't bother me." Clara couldn't leave it like that. She had a feeling that somehow this man had something to do with the giant chicken, but he didn't want to admit it. So she began fishing him for information, and she asked him questions like, "Have you really been here for over 100 years meditating?" And he's like, "Yes." And she's like, Why? And then he answers her, "In myself, I have a universe. And when I'm in my meditative state, I keep that universe in balance. And by keeping that universe in balance, I learn to transmit positive energy out into the universe to fight my battles." And she asked him, "What kind of battles do you have to fight that you have to meditate 100 years for?" And then he said she won't understand. She doesn't like taking no for an answer, so she keeps bugging the guy until he finally answers her. And then he says, like, one day the wicked one will return. And out of curiosity, she asked him, "Who is this wicked one that you keep speaking of?" And he began telling her his story. 200 years ago, I lived in a room of this world as a human. When I entered the dark forest, I left behind my human life and my human body, and I resided here as a spirit. What you see before you right now is nothing but the purity of my energy that I had kept intact through my meditation. And Clara was like, "Oh wow, that's really some deep stuff. Can't you help me find some answers in your meditation?" The old man was bothered with Clara, and he wanted to get rid of her as soon as possible. So he decided to help her anyway. He focused in his meditation, he focused all of his energy to find Clara's parents and this mysterious giant chicken that she was talking about. Closed his eyes, and when he finally got a fragment of her parents' energy through his visions, the story was revealed to him. Because of Clara, her bond with her parents, he could feel their energy through her vibes, the vibes that she was sending out. So, he tells her, when you weren't home, two ogres came. They took the gold in your house, but they also took your parents. And then she was even more puzzled, and she was like, why would the ogres want to have my parents? And then the sage, he calls upon his wisdom and his powerful energies to reveal the answer to him of what was happening in the universe. And he said, because they want to eat your parents. They want to eat your parents alive. They think that your parents would make tasty snacks. The thought of Clara, her parents being eaten, scared her. She was devastated. She didn't know what to do. Looking for answers, or more answers, she asked him, where can I find them? How can I release them? And then the sage told her, you have to follow your heart. Follow it until it leads you to the peak of the mountain. At the peak of the mountain, you'll see a glowing light. There is where you'll find your parents. She wanted to ask him what kind of mountain or how she was going to follow her heart. She needed some more directions than this because this wasn't going to work for her. But before she even got the chance to ask her second question, the sage disappeared. Smoke and mist appeared in the forest, and she no longer saw the wise man. The spirit that had given her answers, the spirit that had been resting and meditating for over 100 years, had disappeared and left her behind in the darkness of the forest. She was growing scared. Wolves were howling and her stomach was hungry. She walked a long path down the forest, and it didn't take long for Clara to realize that she was lost. Now she was lost, hungry, and without parents and confused. She almost wanted to give up. When she heard the howls of the wolves, it struck more fear into her heart. She didn't want to be eaten in the jungle or in the forest, so she found a cave and she decided to go hide in that cave. She crawled into the cave, and when she crawled into the cave, it was a very small, cold, cozy cave. It was also very dark. She didn't see anything or anyone there, but she did throw a few stones on the inside first because she didn't want any animals or pests to be surprising her inside of the cage. So, when she's in, I meant cave, guys, sorry. So, when she's inside the cave, she falls asleep. And when she falls asleep, that's when she gets visited by two witches in her dreams. One witch cackles loud, ha 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 ha, and the other one just stares at her with her long, pointy green nose. Their horrid, terrifying look gave Clara goosebumps all over her skin. She didn't know that it was a nightmare because at that point her dream felt too real to not be true. The witches looked at her and they said, oh, what a small skinny girl. I hope the ogres catch you too, and if they do, I'll have them eat you too. And from your family's bones, we'll make a powerful potion to make us young again and let us live for an eternity. We'll feed of the nutritious vitamins that your family can provide. Clara was like, what the F? No, that's not going to be happening. In her dream, she tried to fight back with the witches, but she couldn't reach them. They were flying with her all over. They were flying all above her with the broomsticks that they had. And she kept trying to get them down, but she felt powerless. She fell instead and ended up in a cauldron that was boiling. Inside the cauldron, there was a green gooey potion, and the witches were cooking her in her dream. She was fighting against it, but the lid was closed on her, and when she woke up, she broke out in a sweat. What was that? What kind of dream was that? What's going on? It's been a really weird day for me, Clara thought to herself. Wish my parents have gone missing, something that never happened. The unexplainable tracks of the giant chicken that shrank The strange meditating ghost guy in the forest and now witches in my dream. I must be losing my mind. And then a voice behind her said, "No, you aren't." She looked behind her in the cave and she saw that no one was there, so she was scared and she was shocked because what the heck? Who answered her? And she yelled back to the voice because she didn't want to show her fear. "Who goes there? Who's that?" And guy goes like, the voice goes like, "Does it even matter? I've been here longer than I remember. I've lived so many lives that I know that name's fate. Why are you here? Do you live here?" To live is another thing, my dear child. I am not a living being. If you aren't a living being, then what are you? I'm the ghost that inhabits this cave. Why are you wandering in a cave or stuck in a cave? I've never heard of haunted caves before, Clara said with bravery, although her heart was beating in her chest and she thought that she was going crazy. And the nerves and anxiety and fear hit her all at the same time. She could feel her throat wanting to swell and she wanted to run away and not say anything. But she knew in this dark forest there wasn't a place too far that she could run to without being confronted by these mystical beings of the forest. And right now she'd rather be in a cave with the ghosts than out there and become meat for the wolves. What is your business with me, ghost? Have I done any wrong to you? Have I upset you? Have I offended you? And then he says, "I'm not even a ghost that hunts this cave. I've come to seek you out. I've been looking for you." Clara asked him, "You've been looking for me? Why?" "I have a message for you." "Okay, ghost, I'm here to receive your message. What's your message?" "Come tomorrow night. Things will not be as they appear. Come tomorrow night. Your soul will be dressed in fright. And if you're not careful, you're going to lose everything in your life that you adore and find beautiful, starting with the parents that take care of you. And then, my sweet Clara, you'll wonder what to do." A sea of bats exited a cave that weren't there before. Clara was freaked out because she wondered where did these bats come from. If they were in the cave, they would have already gotten out when she threw the stones in. But no, the bats were triggered by the ghosts. It were as if they were his minion or his army of minions. The ghost disappeared, but the cold shiver that struck Clara was enough to keep her awake all night. Anyway, guys, this was the story of Clara. It's also going to be a story that I'll keep continuing on Midnight Creeps right here. So make sure that you subscribe to my channel or enter that notification button. If you're watching this from my Storytime vlog, thank you for all the support, guys. I really appreciate that. And lots of love and understanding. I'm sending you positive vibes right here from warm tropical Suriname. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Midnight Creeps, and I can't wait to share more of these creepy stories with you guys. Keep in mind that I freestyle them, but hey, even that's a part of the creativity process. Anyway, goodbye, have a good night's sleep, and until next week, bye bye.